Hey fellow freelancers, Johnny5 Alive here, and welcome back to another Anthem video. Some of you guys have been asking for my hard mode Colossus playthrough of the Tyrant Mines, and we do only have one day until the early access begins, so I figured I would try to get out one extra video for you guys so we can see the effects of the Colossus before the changes that come for release, as the devs did state he is going to receive some tuning for release. So guys, stay tuned and let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to be doing the Tyrant Mines on hard with the Colossus. I'm going to be running with the Flamethrower, the Lightning Coil. For components, I am just using 2 armor reinforcements, as at the time I was a little bit weary to play with the Colossus as my previous builds were getting me killed. But, you know, I do think there are better components than this for this particular build. For weapons, we're going to go with the Relentless Light Machine Gun and the Torrent Auto Cannon. And my support slot, I am going to be using the Shield Pulse to reduce incoming damage. All right, without any further delay, let's get into it. So just a reminder, everybody, this is from my playtime with the VIP demo. And this here is the most interesting Javelin that I would like to discuss out of all of them while you get to watch my gameplay in the background. The Colossus was said to be kind of weak from most people who played with him in the VIP demo. Other people argued that they were just playing them incorrectly, but personally, for me, I tested all 4 extensively, and I would have to agree that it did feel a little bit underpowered. And then having the devs follow up with a tweet and addressing it in their recent live stream, they did confirm, in fact, that he was a little bit underpowered. Now, that's the saying is that he's better with gear. So this is an interesting topic because all Javelins are better with gear, right? But the devs did say he doesn't feel good without that gear, so they're tuning him, from my understanding, they're tuning him to be better in the early stages of leveling up, because we got to play him between levels 10 to 15. And what you see me playing here is level 15 Colossus, basically all abilities unlocked and armor components for survival reasons, because armor in this game, your health is considered armor, so by having those armor components I have more health overall to keep me surviving. So even with all that, I still felt at times it was a little bit hairy. So one thing you'll see me doing here is with the Shock Coil. It's the one ability that you can actually use with your shield up, and this is a must-have to play aggressively, to push in on enemies, to kill them, to take their health globes. So what I really want to get to in this video, so you get to watch me play on hard mode and see the Flamethrower Lightning Coil combo build, which is literally the combo king build out of all the Javelins that I've played. This one just procs combo. Look at combo. It procs combo so often, and it feels like it's critting just non-stop, just doing so much freaking damage. The lightning does extra damage to shielded enemies. The fire burns through armored enemies, basically giving you an all-around build that is good against everything. Now, obviously, the downside to this build is it is only close range. But again, with the Colossus, you have your shield to keep you alive, and if you play the Colossus currently in its current state from the VIP demo, and its lack of tuning for the mid-game, using the range builds, your shield is down, so you just get your health bar gets shredded while you're trying to use your mortars, cast your mortars, sit back with your railgun. Your shield's down, so obviously your health bar is exposed and you're just getting melted away. So this incentivizes people to play the Colossus very aggressively and move in on your enemies with your shield up, get up close, and do damage. So there's really no drawback to using the Flamethrower Lightning Coil combo, because you're always going to want to push in. Now, this is where I find the discussion gets really interesting, because of that whole saying, he gets really good with gear and game. And I did recently see in one of the dev videos that or somewhere online, I can't remember where I saw it, but there is a component for one of the abilities, I think it's the heavy mortar, that when you kill an enemy with it, you receive 30% of your health in return. So I can imagine that there are Colossus abilities that essentially heal you when using them. Excuse me. So if you can get life back with long-ranged abilities, that is going to make the Colossus more viable for long-range builds and various builds. So I really want to play around with the idea and talk about it that, you know, the Colossus requires, he gets really good, people are saying, or he gets as good as the other Javelins when he gets endgame gear. But my concern here was really that all the other Javelins get really good with endgame gear, and they already are good. I mean, I've ripped through the Tyrant Mines on all the characters on hard so far in the VIP demo with various different builds and didn't really struggle at all or really have any deaths. All the Javelins were very, very powerful. Now you'll see in this playthrough, I do not die. So this is a really good build. And I also, this is the first time I'm actually trying this build on a hard run. So, you know, I'm not the best player. This is my second day playing the game. I was coming off the other 3 Javelins. You know, certainly not a master of the Colossus yet. But I had enough time with the different abilities to kind of get an understanding. And I knew that this particular build seemed very powerful. So this was the one that I chose to go in and give my hard playthrough. You know, completely front to back. But previous to this, I believe I tried a mortar build, and I was just dying. And my very first time hopping onto the Colossus was like, let's go, let's do hard mode. Gonna equip, you know, this ability, that seems good, let's go. And I was dying like every minute, and I was like, man, the Colossus sucks. And then, you know, obviously I was like, I'm just doing something wrong. I stepped back, and I decide, you know, to give it my best effort, but I still felt like I was positioning myself very slowly. I was still cowering behind my shield and all that stuff. So bringing this all back around, the Colossus does require gear, and he was technically underpowered when compared to the other Javelins. The devs have addressed this. This will be tuned for release, so he should feel better in the leveling up process. How they're going to do that, I don't know. Is he going to receive less damage? Does he have more health? It'll be interesting to see. The fact that they haven't come out and straight up said, we're going to give this guy a shield, we feel like that was a mistake, kind of disappoints me. I kind of wish he had a shield mechanic, not like the Riot Shield, because the one thing with all the other Javelins, their shield works automatically, and they don't have to hold up a shield to use a shield. And the thing that I really think that doesn't feel too good about the Colossus currently is the fact that the shield is basically not there. Like, look at me, I'm running around, I'm shooting things, I am using the flamethrower, whatever I'm doing, I'm not using the shield. There I am, and I only use it for situations like closing the distance, marching in on enemies, for tanking situations. Other than that, my health bar is just getting rattled. But again, when you have that shield up, you are no longer doing anything unless you have the lightning coil. There's no, you can't shoot with it up, you can't do anything with it up. Therefore, the shield is only good for blocking, and every character in the game can both block and do damage simultaneously. So it does create this weird dynamic of, now's my time to attack, now's my time to block, you know? And with other Javelins, again, you can block and attack simultaneously. So you have this dynamic with the other guys. I'm gonna, you know, my health is low, my shields are down, it's time to back up and let that all recharge. With the Colossus, your shield is down, your health is down, it's time to back off and what? Wait till that Riot Shield goes up? Okay, great, the Riot Shield goes up, but you find yourself in a situation where you have enemies in front of you who you want to kill to pick up those health packs, and then, but the problem is there's enemies to your left and right. You push forward on those enemies in the middle, and suddenly you're going to be taking heavy damage from the sides, being flanked, and if you only have 3 or 4 health bars sitting there that cannot be regened, you will die immediately. So you run into these stalemate moments with the Colossus where I can't get in to get a health pack because there's guys to my right, guys to my left. I guess I have to move around the outside, slowly make my way from the weakest guys in the safest spots, try to get some health packs, get that health regen back up, and then I can make my big play. But that does feel weird for a tank, because that seems to be more indicative to something that an assassin would be doing. I gotta clean up the outskirt guys because jumping into the middle would seem like a terrible idea. In this situation, it's the tank that has to go around the outside cleaning up the guys for the health packs, because his shield only blocks frontal attacks. So, and if his health is low, it means he's at risk of dying at any moment. But when you flip the situation to look at something like the Interceptor, hides out of combat for a sec, gets its shield up, jumps right into the thick of battle, dodging attacks, killing 3 or 4 enemies, picking up their health globes, back to full health. Shields might have taken damage, quickly skirt out, duck under a rock, and then get your shield back. You're full on health and shields. And then you jump back into the thick of combat, never having to play a little song and dance skirting around the outside. So it's interesting. Now, again, when we get these end game components, I want to give this discussion the benefit of the doubt that, yes, the end game components are going to make a difference. What are they going to do? Are they going to give us health regen, extra bigger health bars, better healing, all those different things that'll make him feel beefy? Then yeah, this discussion's kind of mute at that point. Now, what I hope to see is that these long-range builds, like using the mortar and being an artillery colossi is going to be a very viable thing. But the thing that's interesting about that is if you're sitting back with mortars and that sort of thing, rail guns, unloading, again, your shield is down and you're not doing anything with the shield. And if you're not pushing up on enemies with your shield up, and you're going for that more long-range combo off of a Storm Javelin team play, then the shield isn't really being utilized as often as it could be, and it just makes you feel like you're the one Javelin that's just has health bars and no shields. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily always true, because when I did play a mortar build, yes, I dropped my mortars, threw up my shield, but you felt like every time you used an ability, every time you used a gun, you were exposing yourself to damage and you were going to quickly die. Now, they're saying that that's going to change for the leveling up process, and then once we hit end game, we're going to have a lot more health and abilities that heal us. So later on, we would be blasting off all these abilities, getting our health back and feeling a little bit more secure and not needing that shield. That will help things. My concern there is all these abilities that are going into making the Colossus tankier, more meaty, is just bringing him up to par with the other Javelins. And the other Javelins are getting abilities that do extra damage, or bonus combo damage, or extra priming, and it's just making them even better. So these components that the Colossus is quote-unquote needing to be viable, it's not making him go above and beyond that. That's my concern. That's not necessarily what's going to happen. I'm just having a discussion here, how he currently feels. He does, when he does hit endgame and he's going to be doing Grandmaster, you're going to be loading up on all these components that basically increase survivability. But if I want to build an artillery build that's all about combos and doing massive amounts of damage, and I just basically glass cannon my build, I'm going to put my shield down, bring up the artillery cannon, and get ripped apart. Well, you could say, well, that's why you're supposed to build towards being meaty, so you can take a few hits, get off your shots, move in close, kill a bunch of guys, have your shield up, do some shield bashes, charge into them, use your melee, pick up some health packs, and then start mortaring the next group, mid-range away from you, and then move in on them. Kind of stagger forward. Makes sense, but at the same time, if I were to make a glass cannon ranger build, no defense at all, all offense, increased damage. All the components are damage based. I still have that shield. I still have that shield that's blocking while I'm up in the air shooting, I'm on the ground shooting, behind my bulwark point shooting. I have the survivability by default without having to use any components, and now I'm just maximized for damage. So when you try to do the same similar situation on the Colossus, you're going, my shield goes down and I got ripped apart. And that's the benefit to having the other javelins having a shield at all times. So what is the solution here? Something doesn't feel right for the Colossus, and I do feel like he's awesome, but something's just slightly out of place. And that is the shield play not really playing well with his abilities and weapons. So I've seen this discussion in excuse me, I've seen this discussion in my YouTube comments from people saying, you know, I wish he could use a pistol or an SMG with his shield up, but he's actually the only character that cannot use those lighter weapons, so that's not possible. But I do agree that maybe he should be able to hip fire with an assault rifle or an LMG with the shield up, or at least stationary mount himself. So like he can't move forward when he has his gun up and his shield up, and he rests his gun on his shield and shoots over. And then if he moves forward, the gun goes away and the shield comes up full. So it's like kind of like he's hiding behind his shield and using it as a defense position. Slams it into the ground like siege mode or something. And that way he's stationary, he's able to shoot and block at the same time. And you go, well, that's kind of OP. Well, not really, because all the other javelins can shield and shoot at the same time. So that would actually bring him up to the equivalent of every other class, but even not then, because the shield only blocks frontal attacks. So if he's positioned wrong, he's still going to get fired at from the side and take health or armor damage regardless. So it's an interesting discussion, and I do feel like, let's just say in a perfect world, a good majority, like I think the shoulder cannon abilities should all work with the shield up. Like, why can't he shoot something off of his shoulder while he has his shield up? I mean, he can see over his shield just fine. He holds it up and, you know, moves around. It seems like it would be, at least the shoulder cannon ability should work while your shield is up. That would immediately make it feel like you're a little bit more secure. As you're moving forward with your shield up, you use the shoulder cannon ability, and then your shield goes down, and you take all this damage and, you know, potentially die. So you feel like you're forced, if you want to do damage, you got to move in with your shield and use your shield as your weapon. And that's not you have all these abilities, you have all these guns, yet you're running around smashing things with a shield half the time, and it doesn't feel the greatest. You just saw a jump cut there. What ended up happening here was my audio cut out, and it was stuck like that. So I had to reboot the game there, come back in. So yeah, it was a known issue with the VIP demo. They say that's all taken care of for launch. And that, by the way, at the time of me recording this video, the game is going to launch early access in 12 hours from now. So I'm definitely getting this video out last minute in a discussion, because I really do want to talk about the Colossus, because out of all the characters so far, I do feel like he's the one that needs, like, to be tuned the most, but also has the most to be discussed. Like, I feel like some people are completely happy with the way he is, and then some people aren't. And I'm kind of like on the fence, because the way he is, I will learn to play him well, and I will learn to be good with him. But I honestly do feel like I'll always be playing better if I was on a different Javelin. I would always be doing more damage if I was on a different Javelin. So as a gamer, I can learn to deal with the tools that I've been given and still succeed and do fine. As you can see through this playthrough, this was actually one of my easiest run-throughs of the Tyrant Mines, because this particular Colossus build is very strong on him. I don't die, I do a lot of damage, just combos are everywhere. So yeah, the Colossus is very strong with certain builds. If I were running a mortar build, I'd probably be struggling a little bit more. And so what I want to get at is the ideal Colossus. And getting back to that, being able to use those shoulder cannon abilities with the shield up would feel phenomenal. You would feel on par with the other Javelins, and I like the idea of you know, mounting the shield into the ground and hiding. Like, maybe that's even a thing. You can drop your shield as stationary, and it's in front of you as a little barricade. And now he can grab his gun with both of his hands and shoot over it. That would be kind of cool too. You know, there are things that you could do to make him like stationary, move forward, and I even like the idea of he just pulls out his LMG or assault rifle and he shoots it with one hand while his shield is up, but it just has the craziest recoil, the craziest spray and spread, and it just makes the gun shoot like 50 to 100% worse. It's just all over the place. But that'd be kind of cool because you're closing the distance, you got your shield up, you're spraying away, you get up close, you shield bash him, knock him down, and now that he's knocked down, you can put your shield away for a second and use one of your abilities, like your flak cannon, hit him in a weak point, and, you know, and then get your shield back up when you need to. So I think there could be this really fun song and dance with the Colossus that's just not feeling right for me. And I think that's where I want to argue with the people that say he's fine just the way he is, when even the devs have said, okay, we got to fix something here. So he's not fine. But even then, you know, people are just happy to play the big guy, and they like the concept of the Colossus. But you could like something and still admit that there's something wrong with it, or wish for better, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if I could make two versions of the Colossus, the current version, and then a version that can use shoulder cannon abilities with the shield up, can shoot the gun with the shield up, and then also plant the shield into the ground so he can use his heavy weapons while hiding behind his shield, and then pick that shield back up and move forward again. I would almost assume that everybody would enjoy that second version that much more. Now, the question is that imbalanced? Well, I always go back to the thought process that if you look at any other Javelin and you go, hey, they can have shields up while shooting, that must be imbalanced, right? No, the other Javelins are already doing it, so of course it wouldn't be unbalanced if the Colossus could do it too. Sure, he has more health packs, or health bars, or armor, I guess armor bars, but that should be that way because he's the tank. He's taunting enemies, he's drawing aggro, he's receiving more damage once he does that, so he should have more health to compensate for aggroing enemies. So, you know, that's just the way it is. And in most games, the tank is the one that does the least amount of damage, but absorbs the most amount of damage. And I think that's where Bioware has done something interesting with the Colossus, because in some cases, they call him the heavy artillery character, like the guy that does the big damage. He's the glass cannon right now, which is really weird. You drop your shield, you shoot off mortars that do massive combos, and they just devastate everything, and you're down to like 2 health bars by doing that because your shield was down the whole time. So you're just getting ripped apart while you are ripping people apart. And that's the current state. Now, apparently this is going to change once we have the components and all that. I get that. But even then, we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see, and we have to test this stuff and really get an understanding of how he plays at release. So, I mean, it's all got me very, very curious, but from my play testing, without doing the lightning coil and the flamethrower, you go in there with the mortar and the mortar builds, flat cannons, whatever, you do feel like a little bit of a glass cannon. So traditionally, he should be doing less damage and absorbing more, and that's the way I would like him to be. Have a shield, have a riot shield, feel like you're doing less damage, but really getting in there, taunting enemies, pulling them off your allies, and just feeling like you can last really, really long. And that I would prefer that than these huge numbers. And I think Bioware wanted to go in the approach where he's the guy that, like, hey, the Storm just primed this whole group of enemies with one of his frost abilities. There's a whole group of 6 enemies that are frozen, and that's when the Colossus pulls out his mortars and drops them, and you see these huge combos, and it's boom, 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 boom. He really is right now the combo king, pairing really well with a Storm and just doing insane amounts of damage. So he's kind of like the DPS class, but he's supposed to be the tank. And you could come across this weird thing where I'm not quite sure what he's supposed to be. It kind of reminds me of like Bethesda. They're like, we want to make a PvP game, but we want to make a open online Fallout. We want it to be single player, and they're like, and it just ends up being none of those things. The Colossus is like, I want to be a DPS, a heavy artillery. I want to be a tank, but I don't have regular shields. I have a riot shield, but I can't use abilities with it, which counteracts the fact that I'm supposed to be this big artillery guy. And then half the time you're just backing away slowly with your shield up. Now, obviously, we have to wait and see how these components change the game for the Colossus, and hopefully they don't just make him as good as the other Javelins, but they make him insanely fun to play. Because I personally really enjoy the Colossus overall. I think he's interesting. He's like a bigger version of the Ranger. Instead of grenades, it's like mortars, and you know, instead of like arm cannon abilities, he's just got flamethrowers and all sorts of crazy stuff, rockets, flat cannons. He's the bigger version of the Ranger, and then he's supposed to be the tank. Now, if he can actually tank, I'm gonna really like this character, because traditionally in other RPGs I like to play the tank, which means you're leading the way, you're paving the way for your team, and with a good tank on your team and good communication, it usually makes the difference of a win. And if you have a good tank communicating, hey, we're gonna do this pull next, that pull, and this and that, we need you to go over there, I need you to set me up with a combo there. Sometimes it's the difference of securing a win, and if a tank is played poorly, it obviously could mean a full wipe. So where does the Colossus stand in that? Will there be such a thing as looking for tank? Will he feel tanky enough where not having a shield and just having health bars and using long range builds, close range builds, doesn't matter? Does he have that tankiness? I have a hard time believing that will be the case, simply because he does have long-range builds, and that doesn't really work well with the taunting and the shield. It's just there's certain pieces that the Colossus has that don't play well together, but when you synergize it all with like the lightning coil, with the shield up, the flamethrower, and you just play aggressively, suddenly you're dealing with this like AoE tank and spank. All my allies are dying in this scene here, and I'm just the one ripping away, and he's feeling really good with this particular build. So when you start thinking about using things like mortars, it's like, well, why don't I just go play the Ranger or the Storm? Wouldn't that be cooler? So now he has a lot of abilities that are in line with the Ranger, but I'm kind of thinking, shouldn't he have more close ranged abilities, more tanky abilities? So it has me questioning his ability set and how it's going to look once we have those endgame components and legendary affixes or masterwork affixes, either or, and see how that really shapes the Colossus. It really is interesting to me, especially with all the red flags that we saw with the open demo. The devs coming out saying he was underpowered, he needs to be tuned, and a lot of people arguing that he just needs gear to be equal. My counter argument being, well, other characters get that gear too, so it's like a two-way street here, guys. When other characters get gear, aren't they going to be better as well? So, and they're already good, so it's really curious. I'm really can't wait to see where the Colossus lands, because originally he was my number 2 pick. I wanted to go in with the Interceptor, really flashy. I like this like parkour movement. I like to be a little bit showboaty at times. I want to dash around, see how much I can do, how risky I can get. I want to be the risk taker, and just see how far I can push myself without dying, and how much I can dance around all day. I can dance all day, and then switch to the complete opposite, that being the tank that's just sitting there absorbing damage. And I really like the concept of absorbing damage. So he's definitely my second pick, and then trying a few of his builds and a few of his abilities that I really didn't like. It had me a little bit concerned, so I think it's a great discussion video here today, just raising those concerns and then coming back to it later and seeing if those concerns are addressed or not. So believe me, guys, I'm going to be playing the Colossus very closely for research reasons, and I'm either going to fall in love with this character and go, oh good, all my worries were addressed, everything is good, I'm happy where he's at, he doesn't really need a shield, and then I'm gonna play the crap out of him, or I'm gonna discover certain things where I'm just like, you're just better off going with a ranger, or you're just better off playing other javelins, because I have done some ranger builds that are pure melee, get in your face, kick their asses, and he's picking up health packs, he's regenning his shield, he has a bulwark shield, he can play very tanky, the ranger, and same with the interceptor. Two very in your face, close combat fighters, but they also excel really well at range. You can do sniper builds on the interceptor as well as the ranger, so they have this well-roundedness. So what I really hope from the Colossus is a brute force character that's just in there mauling things, or I'd be using him to set off massive combos off storms. So it'll be fun to see where he lands, and I'm going to be looking a lot closer at him on release and breaking down how I truly feel about him after this discussion. So be sure to stay tuned for that, guys, because I think it's a good conversation to have. So far with all the other javelins, I think everyone's pretty happy with where they stand, and so are the devs, and it's looking good for all of them. So we're just gonna have to wait to see what those components are, those legendary affixes are, and all that stuff. So looking at my footage here, guys, it's actually about to end soon because we got a disconnect. Almost took out the Swamp Tyrant here with 0 deaths throughout the whole Tyrant Mines with the Flamethrower Shock Coil combo. He's definitely the combo king with these two abilities. Very fun build on the Colossus. Definitely my go-to Colossus build when the game launches, but I do hope to find more that work there. But yeah, we get disconnected, we don't get the kill, sadly, but it was a successful run. I would have beaten it with no deaths first try, and that just goes to show how good this build is. It didn't even need any practice. And I was coming off like trying a different build where I was dying all the time. So yeah, big discussion on the Colossus. Lots of pros, lots of cons, lots of concerns. What do you guys think about him? What would you like to change? Would you like the fantasy of his playstyle to be shuffled around a bit? Love reading your guys' comments, so leave them down below. And that's going to do it for me here today in this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now.